the struggles that no one warned me about on the carnivore diet while trying to deal with an autoimmune disease. In this video, I'm going to be going over a few of the struggles that I have come across when starting the carnivore diet with my ulcerative colitis. Now, other people have got different ways and different things that they found hardest, but for me, the first one was being fat adapted. I have touched a bit lightly on this on a different video, but for me, the fat side of it was one of the hardest things to get through. And the reason of this is because obviously I had such a carb heavy diet that when it comes to doing the carnivore diet, you have to have more fat in your diet, and obviously you cut out the carbs, which then gives you the energy to then obviously do everything that you need to do. But now but when you've got ulcerative colitis, fat can actually quite irritate your bowels. So when I first started, I was trying to do it what everyone else was doing. They were saying you need to have loads of fat in your diet, you need to have a certain percentage of fat to protein, so like up to 70, maybe 75% of your calories should come from fat, and then the rest of it should come from like your protein sources, which obviously would be whichever meat you decide that you want. So I found that very hard. So at the start, because I'm a personal trainer, I have come from that sort of background where I used to weigh my food, and I used to obviously figure out what the protein, fats, and everything that you would presume to do on a daily basis when you are training, like bodybuilder side of things. But for me, I was like, right, I'm going to be a little bit meticulous and try to work out how much fat and how much protein I'm having per day. Now, some of the advice that I've obviously watched, they were saying to me, you don't need to worry about calories and this and other, but I wanted to see if I was getting the right proportions of what everyone recommended of the daily amount of fat. So as soon as I started doing that, I started getting really bad diarrhea, and it was giving me cramps and things like that. And I was thinking, why is this doing this to me when I thought everyone else was supposed to be eating a high fat like diet? So then I took it back, and then I started going from like 50% fat, 50% protein, and I kind of found that was a good place to start with my ulcerative colitis. I found that I wasn't having to rush to the toilet, it wasn't like I wasn't having loose stools or anything like that. So for me, being fat adapted was one of the hardest things, because it kind of, my bowels didn't particularly like the amount of fat I was trying to put through it at the start. Over time I did work up, so now I have probably about 70 to 75% fat. I don't honestly know. I now just eat like intuitively, if I could spit it out. So that's like, I've been on the carnivore diet about 15 months, so now I just eat as much fatty red meat as I possibly can. So I have like 25 to 75% minced beef. I eat like ribeyes, sirloin steaks, briskets, chuck rolls. Everything that I've got is like a shitload of fat in it, so I generally don't like really calculate it. And a good way to know if I'm having enough fat or not having enough fat is how many times I go to the toilet, which is another thing which were one of the like craziest things that I've noticed on the carnivore diet. Before, I was going to the toilet at least 2 or 3 times a day when I was on a very high carb diet. Now I might go once a day, once every 2 days, maybe once even 3 days, and I find that normal. That's not an unnormal thing, but because I'm not piling my bowels full of fibre and all this other shit, and yeah, so I've kind of gone on a tangent. So I notice now, if I don't have enough fat in my diet, it might go a little bit longer, and then it might be a little bit harder. So what I do is increase the fat slightly. Like, right, okay, what I'll do is maybe add a bit of beef tallow into my steaks a bit more, or maybe keep more of the fat that's on the mince instead of pouring like a little bit away. So for me, it's found the balance of finding that fat, because that was one of the hardest things I had to do, is get fat adapted, which I think it did take longer than someone who hasn't got ulcerative colitis. It might even be the same for Crohn's, I'm not too sure, but it took me about 11 to 12 months before I was actually, I'd say, fully fat adapted, and I've got great energy and I feel great from eating really fatty meat. So that was the first thing that no one warned me about on the carnivore diet. The second thing is, I didn't realise how sensitive I would actually get. So before, I used to eat loads of food and I used to get a bit of pain. I used to, you know, get a bit of irritation from inflammatory bowel disease. I didn't really notice too much because it was just normal, and the foods that I was eating, I didn't really think it was certain foods I was eating. There was sometimes that I'd eat something and think, oh yeah, that's really bad, as it was passing through my bowels and things like that. So I kind of sort of knew some of the things, but the majority I didn't. So once you've been on the carnivore diet for so long and you're literally only eating meat, salt and water, whenever you add something new into the diet, you can instantly know if it agrees with you or not. So for me, I never realised I had a bit of an intolerance to eggs. So I got myself some hens, because it's in Britain, it's so hard to find pasture-raised, organic, no GMO, no soy, no corn eggs in the supermarket. So I got myself some chickens, and now I raise my own chickens for eggs. And I was like, yes, I've got some own eggs. And I started eating eggs, and it started irritating my bowels. And then I ate them another day, and I thought, this is doing the same thing. And then it started giving me a bit of diarrhea. So I did not realise I was actually a little bit intolerant to eating eggs. I've built up a little bit now, so I can have maybe a couple a week. But it's one of the things that you don't realise how sensitive you'll become to other things. So now, I haven't eaten anything other than meat, salt, and eggs and stuff like that for absolutely ages. But the last time I've had a little bit of something sweet was a while ago, and I literally ate it, and it makes you feel so shitty that because your body's not used to it, and it's like, what is this crap you're putting in my body? So it's kind of the same for anything else. So if you say you want to do a 90-day stretch, like of carnivore, at least then what happens is after the 90 days, your body will be used to eating that. So if you add anything into your mouth, then basically or into your diet, you'll literally know if that thing there is going to irritate or not, which is probably one of the best things about it. Because if you then wanted to try different meats, like a bit of chicken, a bit of pork, you start eating it and you found it irritates, then at least you know then it's not worth it. For me, I love beef, and beef agrees with me, and it always has agreed with me. And I just eat that every single day. I don't even need to change because I love it so much. So that's the second thing, was just I didn't realise how sensitive I was, or I am now, because I didn't realise I was sensitive before, but I probably was, and I just kind of put it down to just my ulcerative colitis, to be fair. The third warning I did not realise I was going to get is the medical profession forcing drugs on me. I tried telling them that I wasn't going to stay on the Vecteezy, which is an injection you have to stick yourself in the stomach every 2 weeks, and like prednisolone, which is a steroid. I tried telling them I don't want to be on medication, I'm not going to take it, I want to do it holistically, I want to be able to do it through my diet and things like that. First thing they said, you're not going to be able to do it, it's nothing to do with your food, which obviously I know now is a load of bullshit. And I tried to explain it to them, obviously the carnivore diet, then they tried to say to me it's not healthy, you won't be able to do it long term, it's not going to get to the root cause. So every time I see him for a checkup, they constantly keep saying, you need to go back on the medication. I'm like, why do I need to? If I'm symptom free, I don't actually have any symptoms, why do I need to go back on it? Because they try and tell me that it could be just a remission, or I could be just at the minute okay, but then I will have a flare-up later on, so I need to make sure I'm on the medication to then never have a flare-up and I'll be in remission. It's just, the medical profession are only there to tell you what they've read from a textbook. They don't do any experiments on themselves, they don't actually go deep diving into things, they literally learn things from a textbook. That is literally it, they learn things from a textbook that is probably outdated, that's been outdated for many, many years, and they're basically trying to tell you this is exactly how it should be, instead of actually going to the front lines and working with people on different diets and working on different things. They just literally recommend, the first thing they do is, oh, this medication, we recommend that. Oh, this medication, we recommend that. But there's people out there like Dr. Ken Berry, the Dr. Chafee, there is, I think his name is Dr. Baker, all these people here, they have realised from obviously their medical profession that they weren't really curing people from what ailments they had. And then that's when they went down the nutrition side, and they've realised that the carnivore diet and keto diet and stuff like that are healing people and healing them from the inside out. So they have made it upon themselves to not only learn from the textbooks to get their degree, which they have done, but over the last however many years they've been a doctor, they have been learning and they have been implementing other techniques other than what a textbook says. So one of the worst things is, if you're on the medication and you tell that doctor, I don't want to be on this anymore, you will have a backlash of them constantly on your back saying, you need to be on it, you need to be on it, you need to be on it. So that was 3 things I wish I got warned about. If you like the video, then like the video. Put a comment below if you have noticed the same things, or if you're going to start the carnivore diet. I'd like to speak to you. So yeah, I'll speak to you again soon.